during the Jefferson administration when a group of Baptists from Danbury, Connecticut wrote to the president worried that their state government would be unfair to them as a religious minority. To reassure them, Jefferson replied by emphasizing that there was a wall of separation between church and state.
Guys. Let's talk about the separation of church and state.
Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. For all of human history, from the time of the pharaohs of ancient Egypt to the kings and queens in medieval Europe, nations ruled through religion. They had a state-sponsored religion, and, in many cases, strongly encouraged worship. In the founding of the United States, however, an exception had occurred. There, some colonies had provisions that had set up a freedom of religion, and many people worshipped in different Christian denominations. Many of the founding fathers, such as Thomas Jefferson, were deists. This meant that they did not believe in the Bible, the idea that God interfered in human affairs, church dogma, or organized religion. When creating the Bill of Rights, these ideas were expressed with the statement that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or free exercise thereof. When a group of Baptists from Danbury, Connecticut were worried about their freedom to practice their religion or being discriminated against, Thomas Jefferson wrote back, clarifying the First Amendment, saying that religion is a matter that lies solely between a man and his God, and stating the now iconic words that the First Amendment establishes a wall of separation between church and state. This principle, however, of a wall that separates church and state, was not followed throughout U.S. history, and still is not fully applied. The U.S., despite the First Amendment, seems to have a very, very slight preference for Christianity. Especially in the unironically named Bible Belt. There is a law that was written and passed in Tennessee, part of the aforementioned Bible Belt, that made the teaching of science that contradicted the Bible, such as evolution, illegal, and teachers had to teach the Bible creation story. Later, the ACLU, along with a school science teacher named Scopes, participated in one of the most famous cases in determining the place of the Bible in public schools, the Scopes monkey trial. 7 states still have sections in their constitution that make it illegal for people who do not believe in a single God to hold political office. I bet you can guess which states those are. Now, we have moved closer to the secular goal that our founding fathers put forth. Those statutes about banning atheists from holding political office are not in force, but the problem is they still exist. Let us make no mistake, things have gotten better, yes, but we have not yet achieved the goal of a secular nation that we have put forth.
And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by men. I tell you the truth, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen.
In 2011, a high schooler by the name of Damon Fowler wrote to his principal, "You see, for decades, Bastrop High School had a school-sponsored prayer, where the administrators would pray together with classmates and thank God, and everyone would pray together for their health and security to Jesus Christ. The problem is, a school-sponsored prayer was ruled unconstitutional in the case Engel v. Vitale. It was decided that the state cannot hold prayers in public schools, even if participation is not required, and the prayer is not tied to a particular religion. Damon expressed such concern to his principal via email. Later that day, the principal publicly released the email. Damon was socially ostracized by his classmates, got death threats, was put at the back of the line at graduation, was disowned by his family immediately. Meanwhile, Mitzi Quinn, a teacher at the high school, bashed Damon in the local newspaper. And then, at the graduation, was given an award for her great service. Even as close as 8 years ago, this unconstitutional school-sponsored prayer was still going on.
Jesus entered the temple area and drove out all who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves. It is written, "My house will be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers."
See the holy, righteous dogs. They claim to heal, but all they do is steal. Abuse your faith, cheat and rob. If God is one...
This is the Ark Encounter. This ship is a perfect replica of Noah's Ark as it is described in the Bible, and it cost a whopping $100 million. It was not entirely taxpayer funded, of course. Instead, it only got $62 million from taxpayers to build. This Ark, that cost $62 million for taxpayers, only brought in $2.8 million between 2017 and 2018. Its status as a non-profit meant it had to pay no taxes, but the city officials do get a 50-cent fee on every ticket purchased. This means that it will take about 155 years for it to break even on just the taxpayer money alone. But it goes far beyond that. This is the real kicker. The workers who help construct the Ark Encounter, or who help run it, have to sign a statement of faith. This statement of faith says that, among other things, they believe in the one true Christian God of Abraham and Isaac. They believe in Jesus, that sex outside of marriage is wrong, that all unbelievers will burn in hell for eternity, and that you cannot be homosexual, bisexual, transgender, could never use porn, never have, and never will have an abortion. Let me remind you that over half of the funding for this project was provided by For the State. And everywhere, I mean everywhere, there is anti-LGBTQ propaganda. This happened only 3 years ago. If you lived in Kentucky in 2016, your money went towards funding a financial washout of anti-abortion and anti-LGBTQ propaganda. Your money went towards spreading the beliefs of a religion you have about a 25% chance of not believing in. This money that could have gone to schools or roads instead went to this. And I am not making this up. It just recently sued because of the water damage that it had accrued over the last couple of years.
I cleaned it was nice, yo.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked, but those who keep the law strive against them. Evil men do not understand justice, but those who seek the Lord understand it completely. This man is David Lynn Richards Jr. He is a former pastor, and on February 11th, 2019, he was found guilty by a jury of sexually abusing and raping his adopted daughter for several years. DNA evidence was found at the house, in her bedroom. After the jury verdict of guilty, the judge reduced his sentence. The man was only given 12 years in prison instead of the 72 he would have gotten had the judge not intervened. The judge cited his reasoning for reducing a sentence because he was a good Christian man, and the fact that he was a pastor. This is completely unacceptable. The religion of a person should have absolutely zero bearing on a jail sentence. People are not good because they are Christian, they are good because they are good people. He should not get only 12 years instead of 72 because of his religious faith. It's implied that if he wasn't Christian, he would have gotten the full 72 years. This is the biggest and most glaring example of the lack of separation between church and state, and why we need to build the wall between the two. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you travel across the sea and land to make a single proselyte, and when he becomes a proselyte, you make him twice as much of a child of hell as yourselves. Take a look at the national anthem or the national motto. In God we trust, and one nation indivisible under God. God is still a big part of U.S. life, and it has no reason not to be. People in the U.S. should be free to practice whatever religion they want. But I hope I've convinced you that there is a lack of separation between church and state, and that we do need to keep those two separate, and that the government being used as a mouthpiece for a person's religious views is unacceptable. Many of our founding fathers saw what happened when religion and government was mixed. You got people above the law, discrimination against those who are not of the official religion, and the government funding religious projects. These pitfalls that our founding fathers saw, we are falling into once again. I hope you agree with me when I say we need to build the wall between church and state.